Going into the tomb, we all knew we were going there for a Sentinel artifact, but something I was kind of curious about is which one? Because you have to know there's multiple of them. In fact, there's 9 in total, which is something that's very important that we'll talk about in a bit. But when we finally got into the map and progressed through the Easter egg and we were able to get a good look at the Sentinel artifact, I was surprised to see which Sentinel artifact it was. Because keep in mind, these Sentinel artifacts all look different and are tied to different mythologies. For example, the one from 9, this was based in Egypt, so it was the Ra Sentinel artifact, and then the one on Dead of the Night was tied to Danu. But the one we see on the tomb was the Odin Sentinel artifact. And this is one we'd also seen in the past. This was the one on Voyage of Despair. And my question immediately was, how did this one get in the Dark Ether? Because, I mean, the fact alone that there is a Sentinel artifact in the Dark Ether is huge on its own. Like, regardless of which one it is, I mean, these are two very powerful things from two different storylines. Like, the Sentinel artifact in the Dark Ether in one place at once, that's crazy. So, how did someone bring something from the Chaos storyline into the Dark Ether? How did that happen and why did it happen? And I think we could get an idea of who might have done this based off of which artifact it was. Because like I said, the last time we saw the Odin Sentinel artifact was on the map Voyage of Despair. And who had that Sentinel artifact? Well, that was the Chaos crew. That was Scarlet, Diego, Bruno, and Shaw. They were the ones who had the Sentinel artifact. Now, obviously, we never saw the conclusion of that story, so we don't know what they eventually did with it, but apparently, it somehow ended up from their hands and then into the Dark Ether. And I mean, there's only really two possibilities of how it could have got here. One is that they just lost it somewhere along the way, and then this mysterious figure that took it from them took it to the Dark Ether, or potentially it was the Chaos crew. Maybe after whatever happened in the events of that Chaos storyline, for some reason, not only did they learn the knowledge of the Dark Ether, but they found a way to enter it, and then even more than that, they found a way to lock it away in the Dark Ether. And it seems like they didn't want anybody touching it again. And all of those alone are humongous revelations that people are not paying enough attention to. Those are humongous. But one question that I still had about it all is, why did they choose to lock it away? What was that about? It doesn't seem like that was our plan from the start. In fact, I don't even think our crew really knew what the Sentinel artifacts were. And maybe they found out somewhere along the way of the whole reason behind everything. But regardless, it's just strange to see that they made this decision to lock it away. And the question is, why? Well, I think we can also figure out why that may have been the case. And I think we get our very first hint in the boss fight itself, because during this boss fight, we fight the Sentinel artifact itself. And during this boss fight, it's initially just one Sentinel artifact, but then after that, we see a projection of another one, and another one, and another one, till finally at the final wipe attack, we see 9 total Sentinel artifacts. There is 8 focusing their energy just at one right before the final wipe attack happens. And the fact that we see 9 Sentinel artifacts, I think really means a lot. But to really understand why that means so much, we have to understand what Sentinel artifacts really even are, because I don't think a lot of people are really familiar with that. Because if your knowledge of the Sentinel artifact has come from Black Ops 6 zombies, you'd be pretty confused. You think they were just like really powerful artifacts and that's all they are to them. But that's not really what they are, because them themselves aren't really that powerful. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do have their own power, but what's more important is what they're locking away. Because that's what's important about these Sentinel artifacts. And to understand what they're locking away, we have to go deep into the lore of the Chaos storyline. And this is going to be a fun journey, but I think you guys are going to be really entertained with it. But before we even get into Sentinel artifacts, we first need to talk about Prima Materia. And for the people unfamiliar with the Chaos storyline, Prima Materia is kind of like the 115 or Ethereum of the Chaos story. That's what it was kind of told us to be. It was also even suggested that it might be even more powerful than those ones, but that was never really shown to us because the storyline was canceled before it had its conclusion, so we don't know for sure, but that was something that was also alluded to. But the history of this Prima Materia is fascinating, because this goes back to ancient times, and this goes to civilizations before even the known ancient civilizations. Because all the way back then, this is where humanity had its first contact with Prima Materia. And they had to mine it from the earth, and they were able to use it to do wondrous things. And in fact, they created some of the most prosperous human civilizations of that time. But things wouldn't stay great forever, because as time went on, the rulers of those ancient civilizations became greedy, and they stopped caring about their people they were supposed to take care of, and instead they only focused on themselves. And this of course brought a lot of discontent for them, and eventually brought the end of these civilizations because of the unrest and all the wars that followed that unrest. All the Prima Materia was extinguished, and for a time it seemed like it was lost forever from humanity. But sometime soon after that, humanity found a way to not only get Prima Materia back, but also have an unlimited supply of that Prima Materia. And at first this was shown to other humans and their civilizations, but immediately after this knowledge was shared, this caused more war and chaos to fall upon humanity. And after seeing this, a group that went on to be called the Nine decided that humanity wasn't ready for this knowledge of the infinite Prima Materia. And so they decided to lock it away. And this is when they created the Sentinel artifacts. And what the Nine decided to do was divide the knowledge of how to create infinite Prima Materia between them all, so no one alone would have all the knowledge, and then each of them would have a fragment of that and lock it away in their own Sentinel artifact, creating 9 in total. And though they wanted to just lock it away forever, some of them had hope that maybe not today, but in the future, humanity will finally realize how to use this information and this power for the betterment of just not the people at the top, but for everybody. So instead of just making it where these Sentinel artifacts lock it away forever, they decided to put a trial ahead. And only if you completed this trial would you get at least a fraction of this knowledge. But in order to get all the knowledge, you have to complete the trials of all 9 Sentinel artifacts. And in fact, these trials are what we see on literally every single Chaos Story map. All of them are a trial. All Sentinel artifacts activated, and these people were being tested to see if they were worthy of that knowledge. And by the end of all of the Easter eggs, they were found to be worthy, and they were granted some of that knowledge. And even though this knowledge is just a fragment of the overall infinite Prima Materia, it's still powerful on its own, even though it is a fraction. We've even seen the leader of the Order use it to extend his lifespan for thousands of years. And all of this is just to explain what the Sentinel artifacts are and why they are so powerful. But drawing back to the tomb, I think it is no mistake that in the boss fight, we see 9 Sentinel artifacts. Some people brush this off as just projections and nothing more than that, but I don't know. I think there's something more going on here. Not only is it that we see the projections of 9 Sentinel artifacts, but also if you look at this Odin Sentinel artifact, it looks different from when we first saw it in Voyage, because now it has this weird purple glow around it, this mist even. And I thought this was strange, but maybe this was just having to do with the Dark Ether. But when you see that and combined it with the 9 projections of Sentinel artifacts, I wonder if what really is happening here is something much bigger, and that this Sentinel artifact isn't just the simple Odin Sentinel artifact anymore, and instead that potentially this is all 9 Sentinel artifacts combined. And I mean, I think it could make sense, because we didn't really see what happened at the end of that Chaos storyline, but we already knew that 4 Sentinel artifacts had already been unlocked. They only had 5 more Sentinel artifacts to go, and if anybody was going to complete all of them and take the knowledge of all 9 Sentinel artifacts, it was going to be our crew. So what if what happened is that the Chaos crew was able to get the knowledge of all 9 Sentinel artifacts to themselves once again, but much like the 9, after gaining the power of infinite Prima Materia, they also saw it as being way too powerful and that no one should have their hands on this power. So what they did is that they found this new mysterious other realm that turned out to be the Dark Ether, and they found a way to lock it away in there. And that's why we see this Sentinel artifact in the Dark Ether, and that's why we see the projections of the 9. That's why we see it have that weird mist around it, and more importantly, that's why it looks like the Odin Sentinel artifact. Because what was the first Sentinel artifact that the Chaos crew actually got their hands on? It was the Odin Sentinel artifact, and I think that is no coincidence. Now, I don't know if this is 100% true. This is a theory at the end of the day. But if this is what I think it is, and that this Sentinel artifact that we see in the tomb is not just a regular Sentinel artifact, but a combination of all the Sentinel artifacts, thus meaning that this has the power of infinite Prima Materia, This really shows us the power that both the SAM AI and Richtofen are looking for. But like I said, it's just a theory. But regardless of what's really happening here, I still think it is very important to note that it seems like the Chaos characters probably did go to the Dark Ether at one point or another, regardless if this is a Super Sentinel artifact or not. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions on this one. Do you guys think I'm missing something here, or do you guys think I'm spot on and something really big is happening with this Sentinel artifact? Regardless though, that's going to wrap it up for me. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.